record.
I can tell already this is going to be a fun one.
I'm always relaxed.
This is great.
I got no pants on. I'm naked from the waist down.
Please tell me you're already Mike.
This is pretty typical of Frank. He's always naked from the waist down. Always.
Must make grocery shopping pretty awkward.
They love me at ShopRite.
Jesus. Actually, Jared, you now know what that is since you're on the East Coast, right?
Not yet. No, I haven't heard of a ShopRite.
Oh, what do you?
Are there ShopRites around here, man? Tyler, he can't hear me. Are there ShopRites around here? ShopRite? Is that? Yeah. No, we don't have them in our area.
Where are you located, Jared?
Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, okay. Good country.
Should we get professional and start this crap, guys?
I'm waiting for you,
Jesus.
as usual.
22 episodes. Why would we start now?
No, seriously. You should see like the first 18. We just really did not give a shit. We still don't.
I just want to point out that we're already a minute behind schedule.
No, this is how we start. This is how we start.
No, we're completely on schedule.
Oh, okay.
This is it. So I guess we'll start it off. So welcome to Entrepreneurs Roundtable number 22. So we're 22 weeks strong. We actually I always forget. We did 2 in 1 week. So this is technically the
but then we missed a week. Then we missed a week, though, so we're even.
I think
again.
I say this at the beginning of every single episode we do this on. I'm like, whoa, which one is this? Which week is this? So I'm probably gonna forget next week, and I don't really care. But yeah. So today we started having guests a couple weeks ago or months ago, and we think that's a good forum since no one wants to hear me and Jared just talk to each other. And Gideon kind of bailed on us months ago, so.
Yeah, he wants to get back in there, but he wants us to do it at night.
I know he wants. Yeah, I'm not changing my schedule for this
Which
shit.
for us, so for us, like that's like 1 a.m.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But so today we got Frank Morales from Sandler Sales Training. Frank, I met him. Man, like what's 2000? I met him during 2013 at there's a Morris County Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey where a lot of people network, and me and Frank had kind of met each other here and there, and then he, as business goes, if you put yourself in front of like people in different forums, you start to take notice. So Frank he had hosted 3 of the chamber meetings one time, and he really caught my attention, and then we met for coffee. And Sandler had caught my attention for a really long time because it's a really awesome sales strategy and program. And we sat there and just had a coffee night, and he said, oh, and I was like, yeah, I'm interested in Sandler. And he's like, oh, that's good. Well, when do you think you'll sign up? I'm like, well, and this was September. And he goes, I'm like, well, I'm thinking like next year. He's like, you're not going to do it. And he like called me out. Really, it didn't piss me off, but I was like, son of a bitch. Like, I'm totally doing this. And I was adamant. Like, I really wanted to do it because I saw a lot of people having really huge success with this program. And I think it was just kind of that whole manifesting. It was, law of attraction as I really wanted it. And literally within, I think, a couple weeks, I closed a deal for about $11,000. And I called Frank up that day when I got the check and deposited it. And I was like, all right, I'm signing up. He's like, all right, when? I said, get out. I'm giving you my credit card right now. He was like, holy shit. Yeah. So Frank, thanks for joining us.
Sure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
What I know about Frank is basically that he's a hustler, like in terms of he can hustle, because the story that you've told in the past, I'm going to retell now and see what he says of it. When you talked about him, I don't know, 6-7 episodes ago, you're like talking about how the whole thing you just said about the Chamber of Commerce, and you met him and you were talking and stuff. And he kind of was like, you didn't know then, but taking you through some of like the process of the thing. Absolutely. And then like, once you realized it, you're like, okay, I want to know how to do that. Teach me how to do that. You're like, I want to sign up because whatever you just did to me, I want to be able to learn that.
It was the Yoda. It was the Yoda maneuver.
Yeah, man, he rocks it. So Frank, you have obviously I'm just repeating back to you what I already know, but the viewers don't know this. But you have a history from having your company having multiple companies. I think it was, I forget, and then you were selling programs to golf courses, and then you got into Sandler, and now you're involved in Sandler. So I think you can kind of better describe it. So can you kind of give us a bit of a background from really when you went on your own until right now?
Okay. I'll tell you what, before I talk about me, though, let me give you a third part to Mike's story. which, which I think the audience will appreciate. And that is that it may have been about 6 or 7 months into the program. Mike was already in the program. He'd been sitting there absorbing and drinking the Kool-Aid. And an individual reached out to me that he put me in touch with. He gave me a referral. And it was a company, a fella, that had taken Sandler many years prior. And the comment, so the short story is Mike had gone there for a sales interview, and he wound up closing the deal in that meeting. So it was a one-call close, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And the comment that the fella told Mike as he was leaving was, "Wait a second, you took Sandler, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah."
No, he said at the beginning of the meeting when I did the upfront contract, he goes, "You do Sandler, don't you?" And I was like, "Shit." But I stuck with it the entire time, and the guy just sat back and just smiled because he knew, but he appreciated it. But even though he knew what it was doing, he just had to fall in line and answer the questions. So yeah.
And P.S. He knew, but his owner, the owner of the company, was completely unaware. So it was it must have been an interesting meeting, because you had one guy that knew what you were doing and just sat back and smiled, and one guy that didn't know what you were doing. So when you were pulling your stealthy maneuvers, they were going right over his head. So so that's the way. So let me jump to me. My short story is I spent 25 plus years in the technology industry. As Mike said, selling application software to a variety of different vertical markets. So I was the guy that would sell and implement complex accounting systems to wholesale distributors, manufacturers, construction companies, and golf and country clubs. And by the time I was introduced to Sandler, I'd sold over 500 companies in over 400 golf and country clubs throughout the Northeast, Florida, California, and Europe. So, relatively experienced, 25 plus years selling. No complaints, sold a lot. I was the top in the organizations that I was a VAR for. But when I came to Sandler, I guess maybe it was about 6 months in, I realized that all those years I was really working hard, and I realized that as well as I was doing, I could have done so much better. I could have been working smarter, not harder. I could have closed many more in less time without sweating it. So when people ask me, well, what's Sandler all about? What I like to say is, I can say it's sales training. I can say that it's business development training. I can say that it's management training. But, and Mike, I'm glad that you're here because you went through the Sandler process.
Yeah. So
you can call me out as someone that, that took the program and hold me to task if I'm saying anything that, that you disagree with.
Yeah.
I look at the Sandler process really as a secret weapon. I look at it as stealth technology for anyone that needs to go out there to sell to survive. When we go into business, if you think about it, when we go into business or when we go work for a company, so whether we're the owner or the entrepreneur, the owner of a company, or we go to work for someone, whatever it is that we're good at, that we're working on, in Mike's case, it's animation. In my case, it was technology. I work with a lot of financial planners, insurance folks, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever specialty we have, when we go out there to sell, selling is something that we kind of fall into. We've been told this lie, and that lie is, hey, just go out there, tell people what we sell, give them the price, and they'll buy. Just smile, shine your shoes, and they're going to buy. And then we kind of get upset because they don't buy, and they don't buy as often. And we kind of get tired of this circling back around, this touching bases, when we're in front of a quote unquote prospect, and they're motivated and they're animated, and they tell us, hey, sounds good, give us a call next week, or don't call me. You know what? Things look good. Chances are I'm going to go with you. I'll give you a call right after vacation, right after Labor Day, right after Mother's Day, right after Halloween. I'll give you a call. And then when that doesn't happen, and we start chasing them, we get upset. So I look at the Sandler process as that it's a process, and any process has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a step-by-step path that we follow. And once we internalize it, and here's where the stealth part comes in. At first it's paint by numbers. At first it's learning the process, learning the steps, learning the principles, learning the concepts as adults do. We learn conceptually. So we're learning to paint by numbers. And then at a certain point, and Mike and I have had this conversation a few times where if I'm sitting in class or if I'm giving a class, every now and then I'll see the light bulbs go off. When someone's been in the program for 2 or 3 or 4 months, and I see that aha moment where they say, wait a second, I don't need to paint by numbers anymore. I'm getting it. I'm internalizing it. And they go out and they do what Mike did on that sales call, where this stuff just comes out. It flows out. You're following a path, a process, and there's no pressure anymore. You can low key. You can be in the low key. You don't feel as much pressure, and that you're following a step-by-step program, and you become. And Mike knows this terminology. You become unattached to the outcome. You're not sitting there on the edge of your seat, drooling because you want them to buy. So it's a much more relaxed way of selling.
Yeah,
so
I like
kind of a bird's eye view.
Yeah, I liked it too because it basically it leveled the playing field. That's like one thing you guys would always talk about. It's like, when sales guys go into a meeting, people initially think of a salesperson as like, Jared, don't take any offense, but the car salesman, because Jared used to sell cars, and the initial thought of people selling cars is they're just very sneaky, or they're just like in your face, and like they're not very like it's like when you go to buy a car, like people feel like they're above them. And in Sandler, it's like you kind of go in, and right before the meeting starts, or as the meeting starts, you kind of just say like in so many words, we could talk about it for a contract, but you're like it's okay to tell me no, and it's okay for me to tell you no. And that the look on people's faces, they're kind of like, holy shit. It just adds this like, it's like, when they're above, they're here and you're here, it just goes like that. And you're both just on this conversation. Real quick, is one of us have like a fan kind of going on? Does anybody else hear that, or is it just me?
Nope.
I hear a light buzz in the background, but it's not.
Okay, good.
Noticeable.
All right, I thought it was me.
It must be.
It's probably me. So, I could ask Frank like 10. I'm gonna ask him a ton of questions, but like, there's so many sections of Sandler that there's just layers and layers and layers. So, Frank, like, what would you say in the because we've got like 45 minutes here. We could do little increments, but what would you say is like the secret sauce, or like the one main thing where you're like, this, if you just got this would be the start.
Yeah. So, and you've heard me say some of this before. Where I like to start is the 3 pillars of the Sandler process. If you think about it, those of us that have gone out and maybe taken a seminar here or there, half day, full day, 2 days, whatever, or those of us that go out and just consume books, read about different sales processes. Those are quick fixes. They're what I call the Band-Aid effect.
Right.
They're the quick fixes. It's not like to use an example of Weight Watchers. A lifestyle change. So if I were to look at the Sandler process, I would say I would start up at the top. It's a lifestyle change. It's a mental change. It's a mindset change. And the three pillars are, as you know, attitude, behavior, and technique. So what Sandler did, 40 plus years ago, was he sat down with a whole slew of psychologists. And as Mike knows, one of the things that we learn first in the Sandler process is that sales is a Broadway play put on by a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that
that's awesome, by the way.
and
I love it because Jerry doesn't know any of this, so it's like I'm just like watching his expressions. Like, yeah,
that's like the most profound thing I think I've ever heard.
and the funny thing is, if you think about it, it is because a Broadway play, I mean, it needs a writer, it needs a choreographer, a director, it needs actors, and you've got to be in there in the moment. And when you go see a good Broadway play, you see those good actors become the part. So you don't think you're looking at an actor. You think that you're looking at someone that's actually that live person. If you see a De Niro or some good actor up there, they become the part.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that you're a psychiatrist. So as you're sitting across from someone for the very first time, I've never met Mike before. I walk in. I've got to be able to bond with Mike very quickly. I've got to be able to set expectations, set the agenda, become the leader of the dance very, very quickly. And I have to lead him down a path where I make him feel that he's in control, but all the while I'm in control. And so if you look at the Sandler process, it's attitude, behaviors, and techniques. Now, Mike knows I've run a few marathons, and I've coached a lot of people to run marathons. And the analogy I like to make is if you're going to run a marathon 9 months from now, first off, you've got to have the attitude that you're going to run it, you're going to finish it. So you don't even get out of bed without knowing and without having that attitude that you're going to do it. But the next thing is you've got to have the behaviors. You've got to follow it up. You've got to get your butt out of bed every day, and you've got to run, or you've got to cross train. You've got to eat the right things, not eat certain things, not drink certain things. So there are behaviors that go along with that attitude. But then when you get out there, you need certain skills, certain techniques, certain tools that Mike is aware of, like questioning techniques and active listening. You need to be able to put people at ease. So when you look at that, that's kind of the Google Earth look. And then as you dive deeper, right? As you dive deeper, you realize that the process also encompasses having what we call a cookbook, which a lot of salespeople don't have. A lot of it. And the analogy I like to make is when you talk to anybody towards the end of the year, and say, "Hey, Mike, so you have any New Year's resolutions?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm going to lose some weight." Well, what is that? What does he mean by I'm going to lose some weight? What is some weight? So what is some weight? How much weight? How are you going to lose it? By when are you going to lose it? So a cookbook is, if I'm going to sit down and prospect, okay, great. What am I going to do? Am I going to cold call? Am I going to warm call? Am I going to leverage my LinkedIn contacts to prospect on LinkedIn? Am I going to have center of influence meetings? Am I going to go to networking events? Oh, and by the way, if I go to networking events, what am I going to do at these networking events? Oh, I'm going to take cards. I'm going to hand them out. Well, yeah, that's part of the process, right? But do you have a plan walking in? Who are you going to meet? Who are you going to target? How much time are you going to spend with each person? I mean, do you know? And again, that's all part of the process, in the Sandler world. So that there's a lot there, and that's why what we describe it as is it's ongoing reinforcement training.
I mean that's like 100% like, and that's what I loved about it because it's like Sandler, he said like you can't learn how to ride a bike at a seminar, right?
Yeah, you can't teach a kid to ride a bicycle at a seminar.
Yeah, right. and I love that, and the ongoing reinforcement. I mean, it's like, you look at someone said this the other day. It was like I saw somewhere, Olympic athletes. I mean, they're the best of the best at what they do, but they have a coach. So they have someone there to teach them and constantly and tweak wherever things are going wrong to make them better. And that's what I love about Sandler. It's like, I mean, one, it's like you show up every week because, I mean, doing sales hardcore, you get your ass handed to you all the time because it's like constant rejection. And so like when you have that rejection, you could come in on the Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day they have a class for 2 hours. You could sit there, be surrounded by people who are in it with you, so you can get energized, and you could say, I keep getting nailed like this. And then your trainer, coach is like, all right, do this next time. And then you come back in next week, you're like, holy crap, I just landed this deal because I did that. But if you didn't have that constant reinforcement, you could probably find the answer, but just that personalized one-to-one in the class, like that can get you the answer quicker, and it could be a little bit more of like styled a bit more to what it is you need to do.
Yeah. And let me add to that, because I'm glad you've mentioned that, because when I look at the material, I'm really in love with the material itself, because it's all as it's all psychology driven, and I was a psych major that never used I never worked within the world of psychology, right? Yeah. But I'm in love with the material, and every year, the more and more I work with it, the more and more I realize the elegance of it. But Mike just mentioned something very important, and that is, in all those years that I was in business on my own, I was that lone wolf. I was the guy that just leave me alone. I'll go out there. I'll do things on my own. I'll do things my way. The Sinatra way. I'll just do it my way. Don't tell me. I never wanted a coach. I never wanted someone to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And now in this world of coaching, what I love about it is, and as Mike knows, I coach, but I have a coach. My coach has a coach. His coach has a coach, and so on. So we're always coaching each other. And the beauty of that is that someone like Mike can come to me and say, Frank, I'm really stuck on this deal. And the problem is that Mike is, he's in it. He's in the trenches. So he's kind of inside the weeds. And, he may not have clarity of, well, what should I do? Or he may not be able to give himself permission to do or say certain things. So when he talks it out with me and says, hey, Frank, I've got this challenge, or they want me to do this, or they emailed me this, they want me to throw a proposal over the fence, and or give them a discount. What do I do? What should I say? When I get to to talk someone like that, off the ledge, off the cliff, and talk about it and say, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you do this? And wait, what were the questions that you asked them? What's their pain? What is it that their needs are? What do you know about how soon they need this solution? And why is it that they need this solution? And who's invested in this solution? And what have they tried before? And what worked and what didn't work? And why didn't it work? To ask those questions, to go back to them, and with a little bit more clarity and a little bit more, we talk about having guts and humor. To be able to go in there and ask the right questions, with a little bit of humor, and to give yourself, the permission to ask and to do and to say certain things. And the interesting thing is, if you think back to what we were talking about, Mike's sales interview, right? That's exactly what happened. You went in, you were saying certain things. The guy called you and said, wait, are you taking Sandler? And Mike said, yeah. But he stuck to his guts. You stuck to the system.
Well, that was like the thing too, is that because in class you guys were like, we asked that.
Cutting out a little bit, Mike.
Yeah.
The funny
Mike, don't move, Mike. Talk slow.
All right, am I still in?
No,
so all these scenarios would happen where Chip would be like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I was like, well, what happens if someone calls me out? And, we got a poor signal. So and I was like, well, what happens if someone calls me out? And the guy, and I was like, well,
so while he comes back, Jared, you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So what we a lot of our group are people who would think of themselves not as like salespeople. We've got, a lot of designers. We've got market, SEO type people who do the technical side of stuff. We've got even some DJs who have done more traditional marketing type stuff, but are now trying to, get their music and stuff going. What would be your your kind of response to them if they were looking at this and going, well, that's great, but like, I'm not really a salesman. I don't want to be a salesman. I just need to learn how to like sell my stuff. Even though that paradoxical kind of, I don't want to be a salesman, but I need to make sales.
Okay.
How would your course benefit them if they're afraid of being that car salesman type,
Sure,
overly
sure.
salesy?
So first, I need your permission to use salty language.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can't. I don't think you can outspeak Mike. So I actually but really quick, Mike. I actually get like compliments. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but people have actually complimented me on the show because of like how you're able to just talk freely. Like they're like, oh yeah, I watch Pat Flynn, but it kind of gets boring because he tailors it towards like the 13-year-olds who watch his show. I love that like Mike is able to just say whatever and does say whatever. So I've had a few people compliment the show.
That's awesome.
On that.
So Frank, you could be as cool as me right now. So fucking have at it.
You know what, Mike? I'm not even going to comment about that. I'm just going to let the audience decide for themselves. So I asked Jared for permission to use salty language. I'm not. I'm not going to get as profane as you might think.
Okay.
All I'm going to say is this: for all those people that say, "Well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a sales lady. I'm not in sales," I really just have one word, and that word is bullshit. Okay, if you are out there in business, you sell.
Yeah.
If you are married, you sell. If you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you sell.
Yep.
If you have a dog, you sell. Okay. If you have relationships with people, you sell. If you manage people, if you supervise people, you sell. Because what you sell is concepts. And if you're a DJ, if you're in marketing, if you sell SEO, insurance, whatever it is, you're either selling a concept, a product, or a solution. Right? You're selling your time and materials. You're selling something. You want someone to buy something that you're selling, whatever it might be, for you to, I don't know, maybe deposit money in the bank and pay your bills. So I can tell you that I use the Sandler process, and Mike knows this. I use it at home. I use it with my family. I use it with my wife and with my sons all the time. And the beauty of it is they know what I do, and they don't see it coming.
Yep.
I mean, I do it every single day, and they don't see it coming because, as Mike knows, one of the things that we teach is something called DISC, personality styles.
Oh, okay.
And when you utilize personality styles to bond with someone, to create a long-lasting relationship, you're looking at your own personality style as well as being able to decipher other people's personality styles very, very quickly. We teach body language, facial expressions. It's funny because I did a seminar last week for about 30. They're all guys, as a matter of fact. Got pretty boring, but there were about 30 guys, right? And I explained to them as I'm looking out in the audience. After about an hour and a half, I'm explaining to them about DISC and going through their personality styles. And after I had explained what DISC was, I literally went around there and I said, "You're an I, you're a D, you're this." I literally pointed out to them what they were. I'd given them a little test to take, and I pointed to everyone, and they looked at their paper, they looked at me, and I didn't get any wrong. And I got them all exactly what they were. And they said, "Well, how the hell did you do that?" I said, "Well, as you guys are walking in, I'm shaking hands, I'm asking you questions, I'm making comments, I'm watching you. Every time I look at someone's eyes, I look at their facial expressions, their body language, the way they sit, the way they stand. Right? So right now, Mike is postured in a certain way, so are you. That tells me certain things. So, you use the Sandler process in everything. I mean, that's the fun part of it.
Yeah. So. Just for fun, what does it tell you about how our posture right now? Because I've honestly, I'm really interested, one, just because, and two, the last couple of episodes, I've really been paying attention to that. So, I honestly don't even know why my shoulders are always so much higher than everyone else. I know I'm on a desk, but I just feel like I'm, kind of down, and everyone else seems to be looking up at the screen, and I'm interested to hear, your thoughts.
Okay, well, first off, one of the things that you learn is not to read too much into certain things. it might just be that that's the way your computer is sitting.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't make that much of it. When you really study DISC, what happens is, and if you read any books on body language, or if you ever watch the show Lie to Me, and there are a few really good people that that teach basically how to become a human lie detector. One of the things that they tell you is you want to get, when you meet someone, you want to see what their norm is first, right? So it's really about observing people, the way they smile, don't smile. Let me give you this example. Have you ever noticed, I don't know if you're a hugger or not, but would you consider yourself a hugger?
Me?
Yeah.
Only in specific situations. Most of the time I would say probably not.
Okay. So if somebody came up to you, never met them before, like if I came up to you and hey Jared, how you doing? And I gave you a big bear hug, would you like that or not like that?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'd like it, but it wouldn't bother me because I'm used to it because of an environment I have experience in. But no, that's not my personality. I'd be like, all right, I guess we're friends now.
Okay. Well, and Mike knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Mike and I are huggers.
Okay.
So the thing about DISC is to be able to know that audience, as an example. As I pointed out the personality styles, I pointed at one guy, I said, you, for instance, if I went over there and gave you a big bear hug, you'd love it. Yeah, so come on. And he got up and we hugged. I pointed to another guy and said, you would not like it. You would not let me come near you. And he just kept going like that. And he actually, it became a joke because he actually froze. He recoiled and he froze because he thought I was going to go over there and hug him. So, what is that? So what's that all about? It's really about knowing the platinum rule, not the golden rule. The golden rule is treat others as you wish to be treated. Well, we teach the platinum rule. And the platinum rule is treat others the way they wish to be treated. So if I go over to Mike and hug him, he and I will love it because I'm a hugger, he's a hugger. But knowing that you're not really that comfortable, I wouldn't do it. So it's not just about the hugging, it's about there are some people that you talk to and they go on and on and on. You ask them a question and they go on and on and on and on, and you've stopped listening. And there are some people that you ask them a question, boom, they give you a curt answer.
Yeah.
Right? Or they give you a brief answer. So it's really knowing your audience, knowing who you're talking to, and being able to sense what you should say and to whom you should say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people really like to identify with people that are like themselves. So, take a look at your friends and who you surround yourself with. Most likely there's a common connection that you all have where there's a lot of similarities. So you surround yourself by similar traits that you have. So when you go into a meeting and talk to someone who's very short, if you go into full depth, like Frank said, you're going to lose them. So if they're asking short questions, like you give them short answers, and like D's. And so DISC is broken up DISC, and I won't go into it, but like a D is just basically someone who's very just like upfront. Give me the answer. Let's go. What's the solution? Let's do this. And you have to kind of mold. You have to become like a mirror to that. Because if you're like, you just go into detail, there's like, you'll see them, they'll cut you off. Like they'll ask you the next question. So it's like, you're almost basically saying yes and no at that point.
And by the same token, when you run into someone like that, that's a prospect. Okay. And whether you're in sales or you mentioned DJs or, SEO people, whatever, if you run into someone that is, as Mike said, a D in the DISC, that's a very bottom line type of person. If they're going to demand discounts or they're going to demand that you do certain things, that you jump through hoops, you've got to know how to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to know how to say no, and how to manage them without them knowing that you're managing them. So, DISC does that for you, and that's really, as Mike knows, that's one tiny part of the same.
I know, like I literally have the entire time you're talking, I'm like, we should talk about journals. We should talk about the RI, who you are, who you are. We should talk about like the upfront contract. We should talk about the sub, like LinkedIn. I mean, there's so much stuff you can talk about, and that's the hardest thing. So it's like I want to keep it top level, but give people a taste of just like, you know, something small, like negative reversing. I mean, that's a big one. It's, you know, the biggest thing is talking about the pendulum, where, you know, when you have someone at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock, you think of it as they're really eager, they're ready to buy, they are going to buy it. 9 o'clock is they're very negative and they're pushing you. And they would teach you that if someone's at 3 o'clock to start, that's really bad, because they're like, all right, great, let's start. And you have to pull the pendulum back a little bit, because when you do that and let go, it'll swing back in the opposite direction, right?
Is that a reference to when you said, I'm going to do this, and I said, no, you're not?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, okay. It's like he was like, kind of, it's like he pulled it back, and I was like, I'm going to jump forward more. Like, I almost like pulled a credit card out, like, no, I'm going to do it. Like, here you go. Don't call me out, motherfucker. Like, yeah. But if you meet someone and they're like, yes, let's do this, you'd almost stop and be like, oh, you know, hold on a second. Like, why would you be so quick to, you know, why would you be so quick to jump into this decision? You know, I'm sure there's other companies you want to talk to first. You know, it's like you almost just blow them on. So like, why don't I talk to anybody else? You're like, well, I don't know. Like, well, what do you look? Why wouldn't you want to talk to someone else? And then they'll just let them go, and they'll just, it's like you're revving them up, and they're like, well, these are all the reasons why, you know, and that's just like a small sample of it. Yeah. And it's crazy, because I've done this shit before. Like, I was in a meeting, and, or like Frank's biggest thing is like, ask the question and like, shut up. Like, shut your mouth, even if it lasts a minute. Like, I had one time where literally it lasted a minute on the phone, and I actually had to jump back and be like, hello? And they were like, oh, I was waiting for you. You know, like, I held it for 60 seconds on a phone. But it was another situation where someone said to me, and after Sandler, I became really good at selling to groups. I don't know why. Like, if I was in a group of 3 to 7 or like 8, I was really good at selling. So I was in a meeting, it was me and 4 women. And the CEO of the company started it in the 80s, you know, and so she came from by herself, grew it to a 40-person company, female, you know, very impressive. So, you know, she's going in there. My first thought of, she's like, okay, this guy is going to sell to me. And I'm like, all right, you know, so I was just very like, I just did my thing, whatever. And someone on her team asked, they were like, well, what are your thoughts on our website? So I took like a Sandler approach, and I go, well, you know, I appreciate the question. You know, my thoughts are, you know, real quick though, you know, why'd you ask me that right now? And then she just went off on what she really wanted for me to say. Now, I could have said, oh, I think it's awful. And she would have then said, well, that's great, because I actually designed it. You know, so I didn't know. It's like they're setting you up. So when you reverse it on them and let them take off, they're going to give you what they're looking for, and they're going to start pushing more and like telling you everything. So like you have more information to go on, and you're letting them talk more, like the 70-30 rule, you know, like shut up 70% of the time, you know, let them talk. And that was, you know, again, like dating, you know?
Right, exactly. I mean, and you know, if you think about what you just mentioned, right, you touched a whole slew of points there.
Yeah.
You know, what's the process? So, you know, for the audience, let me see if I can give you a synopsis of everything that Mike just said. So think of it this way. One of the things I describe as the buyer-seller dance. The buyer-seller dance is when I go in there to sell. You know, you go in there to sell. And again, whatever it is, it's a concept, it's a product, a solution, you know, time and material, whatever it is. When we go in, typically we're dancing to the buyer's way of buying. You know, they'll invite us in. They'll say, "So what do you got? You know, what are the prices? You know, let me see that. Can you give me a discount?" You know, and if you think about the way people buy nowadays, you know, for the last few years, one of the challenges has been that people now research a lot. So before they even meet you, they'll research. So they're going to approach you and they're going to say, "Well, I've looked at all your competitors. I know what the prices are. So what do you got? What do you got?" And you know, others will make you, you know, place you as a column in their spreadsheet, and they'll compare prices, right? So, and they'll tell you, you know, some will be honest and they'll tell you, yeah, I have to get 2 or 3 quotes, or I'm going to talk to 2 or 3 people, and that's the way people buy. So, how do we turn that around so that we're not dancing, you know, like the monkey and most of you are too young to remember this, but back in the 20s and 30s, they used to have the little monkeys that you give them a quarter and they'll dance for you. Well, that's the buyer's way. So how do we turn that around? What we do is we establish a pattern so that, one, you bond with them quickly, get in sync with them quickly by looking at their body language, by asking certain questions. As Mike said, people buy from people they like, people they trust. So how do we become the trusted advisor instead of the peddler? How do we do that quickly? One, that's step one. Step two is to set an agenda, what we call an upfront contract. And that upfront contract is, it's essentially setting an agenda, letting them know what their role is. Thank you for inviting me in. I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to ask me some questions. And listen, at the end, if you don't feel I'm a fit for you, it's okay for you to tell me that. I'm okay with that. And would you tell me no if I'm not a fit? Great. And listen, by the same token, if I don't know, what you need is not really what I have, I'm not a fit for you. Is it okay if I told you that? Can I be honest with you? Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. And by the same token, if at the end of our conversation, we both feel that there's some synergy here, and that what we're talking about really makes sense, would you be able to take another 5-10 minutes to talk about what you would like to do next? So that's setting an agenda. And then the next thing is just start asking questions about what they want, what they need, by when they need it, why do they need it, what are the pain points, what have you tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked. So it's really ask about them. And if you think about it, right there and then, we are different from every other salesperson that they have been confronted with. Because what we're doing is, I'm saying, hey, Jared, thanks for inviting me in. Let's talk about your issues. What is it that you need? Why do you need that? What's working? What's not working? How long has that been a problem for you? So I'm talking about you. And what do people like to talk about? Themselves. Right? Instead of me coming and saying, hi, Mike, hi, I'm Frank, 100 years we've been doing this, 1,000 customers, we're the best, you don't want to know about me. You want me to find out about you. So I'm going to find out what ails you to see if I can cure it. If I can cure it, I'll tell you. If I can't, I'll tell you. And then we talk to be able to have a comfortable conversation about money. And a lot of people are very uncomfortable talking about money. But for me to be able to say, hey, Jared, do you even have a budget to pay for this? What I've even thought about how much this is going to cost you. To have that, that conversation that makes you feel comfortable as well as me. And then to be able to make sure that I'm talking to the right person.
Well, it's also, but you're finding out for yourself, reality, because when we spoke originally, I can replay in my head exactly the conversation, but it was you became an advisor. You were no, seriously, how would you pay for this? And I'm well, and I took it not why would you ask me that? I took it as, well, I could do this and that, and this is how I would do it, but this would be kind of tight. And you're well, would that be a problem at this? So it's you painted a realistic picture, and then for yourself, you're qualifying me, because if I was oh, there's no way, you'd be there really isn't a fit here. And you could be 10 minutes in the conversation and be from my understanding, if you're saying you're never going to have the money to do this, and you really don't have a way to get there, there really is no need for us to talk. And that's where, you jump out of it, and you're you just saved your time and their time, and you're not going to keep sending them emails and text messages or, whatever for the next 6 months, knowing wholeheartedly they're never going to have the money.
And, the other thing, too, because I've been on the opposite end where I've been talking to someone this way, and it gets to the point, too, where rather than being on the defensive, when the money comes up, you're I don't know, is it worth it, the value? It kind of puts, at least for the times that I have talked to someone who's, gone through this, I've kind of been okay, how can I figure out how to afford this? Okay, I don't even go, is this valuable enough? Is this worth this? Do I want to do this? I start to see the value, and it kind of lowers that defense. Now, again, it has to be something I'm interested in. It's it's a magic pill, right? But it's okay, so seems really good. And when it comes to money, instead of being I don't know, I'll think about it. It's okay, how can I afford to do this? You asking that question, just where Mike was what? No, I'm going to do it. Don't tell me I'm not going to do it. Instead of it being I don't know if I want to pay that much, it's okay, how can I figure out how to pay that much.
Right. And here's the key, though. If you think about that, here's the key. You know, by really wanting to know about Mike's situation, so just to use him in role play, if I first meet Mike and we're talking about his financing, we're talking about his budget, one reason that I want to know is, sure, does he have the money to pay for this? But here's the other thing. How many people out there have sold something, right? Because they really needed to sell something, right? They needed to make their quota, or they really needed to make this sale. And, they kind of steamrolled, without caring about anything, just sell it. Mm-hmm. And, when I sell something, in that particular case, I want to know that he's going to be able to pay for it comfortably, that this is going to be what he wants and needs, because I don't want to set him up for failure or myself for failure if 2 or 3 months from now he can't pay for the course, and then he stops coming. He can't pay anymore. He stops coming. It didn't do him any good. And what did I do, really? I spun his wheels and mine. And in that particular case, that's really not caring about the prospect. So one of the things I love about the Sandler process is you really do get to care, for the individual that's in front of you. And, I do want to help people, but if they can't pay for it, then I may give them another avenue. I may say, well, do this, do that, or maybe we can do less coaching. Maybe I can get you there quicker. Mm-hmm. I'll work with them. I can choose a better program for them. That's not going to break the bank. Because again, at the end of the day, I don't succeed unless my clients succeed. I mean, that's how I measure my success. And then even beyond that, to be able to make sales stick. When you get to the end, to be able to say, to be able to make sure that if it's a Friday and you say, Frank, love you, here's a check, here's a contract signed, I don't want then for you to call me up on Monday and say, hey, Frank, you're sitting down, I'm sorry, I have to, and a lot of people, they have that buyer's remorse that they have to deal with. So, what we do is we make sales stick so that when you do close it, it sticks, number one. But number two, I want a customer for life. And by that, I mean, I want someone that's going to come through the program. They'll succeed, I'll succeed, great. But they move on. Mike has moved on. He's not in the program anymore. But I consider him a client, well, I consider him a friend, but also a client for life. In the sense that, certain clients may come back to you, at some point. But certain clients may just give you referrals. I mean, how many people are out there that don't know how to build their business through referrals, which is another thing that we teach, right? How do you build your business through referrals? I mean, I'm at a point right now where I don't have to prospect as much because I get so many referrals. The reason I get so many referrals is because early on I did certain things, certain behaviors. So, that's where you see the process. There's a beginning, there's an end, and you have a game plan. I mean, Mike, you've driven cross country the last few months, right? Okay. Yeah. So I mean, think about it. If Jared, if you decide tomorrow you're going to pick up and leave, it's Virginia. You're going to go here, there, whatever.
Well, I just did that from California to here.
Okay, there you go. Well, just out of curiosity, did you happen to look at any maps, or did you happen to look to see where you might be going? I mean, you plan it out, right? And how many hours am I going to drive? And if I'm going to drive, X number of hours, well, where is it that I'm going to stay tonight? In other words, you've got to know where you're going, right? You've got to know where you're going. So you've got to have goals. You've got to know where it is that you want to go. Yeah. And then you got to figure out how you're going to get there. So this is what the process is all about.
I want to do, just because we're down about 10 minutes, I have a couple of hopefully just kind of rapid fire logistical questions for people who are specifically interested in doing the training. I always like to, if someone has something to sell and thing, I like to kind of wrap up, like make it easy for someone to contact you or whatever. Sure. First off, just how long is the Sandler's process? Is it variable? Is it a certain amount? Like, I know you said Mike wasn't in it anymore, but he could come back. Some people, like how long is it typically?
So good question, and here's the way I answer it. It really depends on what an individual or a company needs to accomplish. So it's not one size fits all, and I don't tell them do this, do that. No, It's I have a conversation with someone, and I see what it is that they feel that they need. Kind of dissect where they are, and then it's like going to a surgeon, right, or a brain surgeon, with a headache. He may give you aspirin, water, or take out a scalpel. So, I need to ask certain questions. So it could be a one-day seminar, it could be a two-day seminar. I do a lot of in-house stuff. As Mike knows, our system is global. So I can meet someone, for instance, who's in San Diego, based in San Diego, and I can place them in a program with one of our guys in San Diego or in Boston. Right now, I'm doing a company that has guys scattered throughout the United States. So I've got literally folks in Boston, Northeast, West Coast, Southeast, so I can place anyone anywhere.
Okay. That actually kind of leads into the next question. Well, actually, that's one of the questions is how to get started. Because I've looked at it before. I looked at it once when he talked about it, and I was looking at it again while we were talking earlier on the site. So I pull up your site, and it's like, oh, hey, where are you? And I click the button to allow my location. It shows all around me, and it pops up like different guys' names with like different business names. And it's like, okay, so
Good
what is that? What does that mean?
Good. So the Sandler, the Sandler system, it's a franchise.
Okay.
The beauty of it is that there are over 250 of us throughout the world, and we all study from the same book. So we all teach the same thing, the same concepts in different languages, but it's all exactly the same.
Okay.
The best place for people to start is to contact me directly, because I know everyone within the network. So, and as an example, a fellow that was in that group last week that I gave, there were about 30 people. This one fella is in Atlanta. So I literally just placed him with one of our guys in Atlanta yesterday. Okay. So, basically I have a conversation. You say, Jared, so, what ails you? We determine that. We determine where you are. And I can select someone in a particular location. And I have my preferences. For instance, in Philly, we've got 5 guys down there. So I know, I try to match the personalities, not just the location.
Like, would that be matched? Okay, by personality, and then even maybe by that particular element to keep with the same language. Like if I have, let's say, me and a buddy, we both live in the same town, and we're going into it, and I'm needing help on learning how to do more online marketing. I want the psychology of people to understand, and then I have another guy, my buddy, who wants to sign up is more of like, I want sales. I want to be able to work a room. I want to know, like, I want that. Like, would you possibly place us with 2 different people because of that?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily.
Yeah,
we teach all of that, right? So we teach all of that. And, the beauty of what we do is that we get to work with people from a whole lot of different markets. I mean, right now I'm working with an attorney, a single attorney, right? Marketing people, technology people, a robotics company, insurance. So it really, it could be any market. It's really more what you want to accomplish, and then placing the individual in the right, in the right location with the right person.
I would jump in real quick just for the whole question, Jared. Man, I mean, I would honestly say like the way that Frank and Chip run their program, they do a year and they recycle. I mean, it's like school. Like you'll recycle the same stuff, but the good thing is that it's reinforcing that again because you're like, oh man, I forgot about that. So I would suggest the entire year just because, I mean, that was like, it took me about a month to get comfortable with it, 2 months to really apply it, 3 months to start killing it. And then I learned all this extra stuff along the line, like throughout the year.
Does it take a year to go through all the whole, for just the curriculum, for lack of a better word? Is it? It
could take you, honestly, man, it could take you 3 years to really dissect this. I mean, this shit is endless. It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's one guy that Mike and I both know, which is a good story to tell. He was a kid at the time, 29. He came into the program. Thursday I'm having coffee with him, by the way. So Mike knows this fella, right? He came in, he was 29 at the time, very nervous because he was in a brand new job and they gave him a quota of $450,000. He was really nervous. And he said, well, listen, I need to take a sales course. Will you pay for it? He said, oh, if you want to go to a salesman, pay for it yourself. So now here's a guy, 29 years old. He said, all right, fine, I'm going to pay for it myself. So fast forward, several months later, he passed his $450,000 quota, passed $1 million, passed 1.5, passed 2, 2.5. At the end of that year, he got married, and the company gifted him the whole year, and they said, and we want you in the program for another year. 6 months later, they gave him the keys to a brand new BMW.
I've driven in it. It's pretty nice.
Okay. And then he got to a point where he set his own quota, and the last time that we talked about it was 6.5 million. So
yeah. So the company gifted him. Are you saying a year off?
No, they gifted him.
No, they paid for his
training. Oh, okay.
He paid for his own training for a year. At the end, they basically said, "We're going to refund you for all that you paid, and we're going to pay you for the next year." Yeah,
signing their other guys up.
Yeah,
they did. I think they. They did.
No, they didn't. I mean, we did other training in the company.
He was like the top guy.
He was the top guy.
Okay.
He killed it though. He literally. I mean, he was a guy who was afraid to sell. 250. I think was his first year without Sandler. Then he goes in it and he doubles it, and then every year he would just go up and it started getting into the millions. And I'm like, Jesus, it's crazy. And he would just stick to the system. And I even asked him, like, what are you not doing? He's like, I'm doing it all. He's like, I mean, he would kind of rework it a little bit to flavor it for himself, but he had a client because, real quick before we, because we got 3 minutes. Upfront contracts are a really big thing when you walk into a meeting. It's five things. It's like, you're like, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to ask me questions. Or no, we have an hour. That's cool. Yes. All right, great. I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to ask me questions. That's okay. Absolutely. At the end, if you don't think I'm a fit, can you tell me, are you okay? Tell me now. And they're like, yeah. And you're like, at the end, if I feel you're not a fit for me, are you okay hearing that you're, and they're like, yeah. So you establish right there the time, what's going to happen, what happens if you both think that's not a fit. And at the end, you're like, well, if we do think there's a fit, can we take a couple minutes to decide what the next steps to be for you to be comfortable making a decision. So packaging that up right there. He had a client that he would go back to for Johnson & Johnson. He'd go back to them every time. He knew that person. He had sold to them before. The same person. He'd walk in the room. She's like, all right, just go through it again. He's like, all right. And he would do it again. And she's like, yeah. So he reestablished it every time with the same person. She's like, check this guy out. This guy asked me this thing every single time. And, he just followed the system. It's like if you get up at bat and you're like major leagues, like you are using the same structure, you're advancing on it. But the technique, it's like you don't forget that. And that's what it pretty much is, and you just use it over and over and over again. And that's the stuff. It's like magic. It's insane.
So if someone's interested, if someone's like, I want to do this or I want to find out more, the best thing is to contact you personally.
Yeah, I mean, contact me personally because I can have a brief conversation, and I can get a sense of whether or not they need it or not, or because some people really need more marketing stuff, which is stuff that we don't do. If it's sales and sales related, I could say, well, this might be a quick fix, i.e., a foundations course, something that's a little bit short. Because again, different people need different things. Different companies need different things.
So you'd be more of.
And the good thing too is like Frank knows. He's a good intro because he knows they all meet in Florida in March. All the representatives of Sandler, so he knows a lot of these guys. So when I was traveling the country, I'd reach out and be like, him and Chip and who he's he works with as well. I'd be like, hey guys, I'm in LA. And they're like, oh, there's this guy, go there. So there was 5 different guys that go to this guy. They're like, he suits you better. And that's why it'd be good to contact him because he knows it personally. He's like, oh yeah, go to this guy.
Okay, so it'd be less of the marketing, more of the sales and the psychology of selling and all the stuff around that is what you guys are really
how to build a business, or if you're someone that's transitioning, if you're a small company that wants to transition to a mid-sized company. A lot of companies that come to us, so they're growing, and they hit a ceiling. They don't know how to do it. So,
can one of you post his contact information over here so people you have a website or how number or whatever?
If anyone is interested, very simple. I'll give you my email right now.
Okay.
And you can also look me up on LinkedIn.
Type it in the bottom left.
But also say it so people are listening to this as a podcast or watching on YouTube later.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. Let me put my glasses on.
I'm gonna put your I'm gonna get your LinkedIn link as well and put it in there, even though it's like about a mile long.
Yes, could you do that for me?
I'm gonna Bitly this shit.
So it's fmorales at Sandler.com. And Mike, you're gonna do the LinkedIn. Just keep that in there. And by the way, I do connect, especially if anyone's connected to this podcast. I do connect on LinkedIn. A lot of people want to know what to do with LinkedIn, how to build their business through LinkedIn. If they reach out to me, I can send you a homework sheet on how to beef up your LinkedIn account. And I love helping people with that. We're going to do a seminar next week on how to build your business, how to sell proactively using LinkedIn. Because I was telling Mike that, as an example, LinkedIn, the company, and Sandler, the company, just recently co-wrote a book on selling on LinkedIn the Sandler way. So I can help with that as well.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I think Jared, he jumped out for a second. I think he's going to try to jump back. Here we go.
Yeah, don't click that link until we're done. Normally it opens a new tab. That one just straight up took the page to his.
Was that me or was it me or him?
No, it was Jared. It was a link I put in. Yeah, Jared, he was talking about so Frank, real quick, you say that again. You were doing a seminar about LinkedIn.
Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you want to come, it's next Thursday, 8 from 8 till 11. And what it is oh yeah, that's right. You have to launch it. Well, what it is, in short, is people don't know what to do with LinkedIn. A lot of people use Facebook and Twitter. They don't know what to do with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the professional network. It's not just to beef it up. So we talk about beefing up your LinkedIn, but also how to proactively go out there and prospect using LinkedIn, leveraging all of your contacts so that I can meet people through LinkedIn to do business. I spend about an hour every day on LinkedIn. I get a lot of business through LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because when I started, I thought LinkedIn was not pointless, but I didn't know how to use it. And I sitting through class, I was like, oh my God. I actually turned to it and it was really powerful. And I know I did that one video tip that one time about giving referrals through LinkedIn, and I put it on LinkedIn, and that got a lot of attention. So, I mean, there's all these there's ways to find people, there's ways to connect people, there's ways to give referrals. I mean, it's crazy. But, so Frank, man, it's 6:03 right now. Would you want to come back on and talk about a topic, just specifically about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think
if anyone's interested, we could spend an hour easily just on disc.
Yeah.
Nothing else but disc.
Oh my God.
Right? We could just spend an hour on IR theory. We could talk about goals. Setting goals, right? And
I think a big one would be for the Entrepreneur Roundtable. And anyone watching this, we have a Facebook group. It's Entrepreneur Roundtable. Just look it up on Facebook. You can join. It's free. And we're almost about 300 members now. I think we're 6 away. But I think a lot of people in there, these are people starting a company or are in the process of just starting to grow their company, or some of them have they've got their employees and they're past it. But the people starting are always asking a lot of questions because they have jumped ship from their job and they're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I do with my week? And I think talking about the cookbook would be a big one, because the cookbook, real quick, we talked about before, but it's really just breaking down 6 to 10 things you should be doing every week and how many of those things you should accomplish. So it'd be giving referrals should be 2. Getting referrals should be 1 or 2. Like you say, you started off posting, or let's see what else, going to a networking event, 2. So at the end of the week, you check in these boxes. At the end of the week, you could see how much of that you've done, and you adjust it after a couple of weeks to see, all right, which of these things are actually bringing business back my way. And if going to networking events is the big one, you amp that up to 10. It's really it's an amazing thing.
So yeah, I mean, and Mike, what I can do is I can send you a list of potential topics that people might be interested in, and but I definitely things like this, cookbook, goals, IR theory, all that stuff. We could do, as we could do a whole hour on negative. Just 3 things: dummy questions, reversing, and negative reverses. Right there, there's an hour. And how powerful is that?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think Yeah, I think a big one for the group would be just how to structure a meeting, because when people go to sell, I mean, they're just doing the pitch and everyone's just like, whoa, you don't even know what I need. And they're just like, here's my service. You need this. They're like, I don't know what this is, you know?
Because we have so many people who are just starting out, or people who are super skilled at what they do and they're now trying to go freelance with it, you know, and trying to make it on the side because they're tired of working for someone else. And that would be super awesome for our group.
Yeah. And if you think about it, the pitfalls that they're going to find.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and listen, I was there. I mean, I was a programmer. When I started my company, I was a programmer. I became a consultant and, you know, had my company for, you know, 25 years. And, you know, I was told the same line, just go out there, tell them how great you are, tell them what you do, and they'll buy. And so the pitfalls that they're going to find is they're going to go out there, they're going to want to show how much they know, you know, impressed by their knowledge, and they're going to wind up shooting themselves in the foot in the process. Right?
Yeah,
that's not what we should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even talk about your business till like, Christ, man. In meetings, I probably would give them. At the last 5 minutes, I'd show them a video. Be like, here you go. That's what I do. You know, I mean, after like getting all the pan on the table, and they're like, you know, here's the contract. And the best thing was I did that one time in that meeting we were talking about at the beginning of the show. The guy was like, you have something I could sign? I was like, yeah. And I luckily printed up a contract, gave it to him. And this is the best thing, like you push it their way, and then he goes to sign it, you pull it back, you're like, are you sure? That takes balls, dude. And he was like, yeah, he reached for it to pull it, to get it, you know? And I was like, oh my God. And then that trumps buyer's remorse. You give them out right there.
And Mike, as you know, the funny thing is, whenever I teach that, people kind of look at me like I've got two heads. They say, no. I number one, I won't do that. I would never do that. Number two, no, it doesn't work.
Oh yeah.
And we know that it does.
Yeah, one closed deal. I mean, and it's crazy. So, awesome, man. Well, I'll talk to you on the back end to schedule this again. I think we've got some open slots in November and December, and that'd be awesome to get you back on here.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, if I can help anyone, Mike knows I love helping. So
yeah, man.
If anyone wants to reach out, you know, shoot me an email to say Mike Doyle, and I'll know. And
maybe like, nope, not helping.
spam. So yeah, if I can help anyone in any way, reach out. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Frank, and everyone watching. And yeah, guys, go check out the Entrepreneurs Roundtable on Facebook. Go sign up. We'll let you in. And if you go to the group, don't spam it, or we will kick you out. We will buy Felicia you.
We'll make fun of you first, though, and then we'll kick you out.
We'll stick Nick Barry on you, who will just rip you a new ass. And but yeah, so thanks so much. And next week we will be discussing. I don't really know. I don't know. We'll be talking to somebody.
Someone really cool.
Tune in. It'll be awesome.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.